Hi, I'm Steve Legg, and I'm here detailing some of the examples of the non-coloring work that I did for Nexus, the coming of Gourmando. Although that would have been an entirely different video, but I don't think I did any image captures while I was doing the coloring. Anyway, after the whole book was put together, Steve felt that it wasn't quite coming together. It didn't really flow. I'm not quite sure how it was written. I think because it was intended to be like a newspaper format. The originals from the first Kickstarter were like 17 by 22. They were newspaper sized. These things are huge, and so it was just kind of being made a page at a time with an overall plot in mind, but not really necessarily anything set into concrete and worked out before the pages are made. Maybe I'm not exactly sure, but anyway, it didn't feel like it was flowing for him. So Steve went back in on his own and rewrote parts of, if not in the entirety of, whole pages of this entire story, and even added, I think, 5 or 6 pages. Maybe it was just 4. I can't remember now. It was a while ago. So what you see, what I'm doing here is I'm putting in. This is, I think, probably the first wave of going through the pages and adding in the new text that Steve had written that he felt worked better than the previous text, or that because of other rewrites that he had made referenced or spoke about other things that he had also rewritten, so it all comes together in a more cohesive story. So I'm working in Illustrator. I'm doing basically lettering in Illustrator, not credited as a letter or anything on the book. This is just how the fixes worked out, and that's how I do my normal lettering when I work on my own stuff or things for other people. So I just did all my lettering in Illustrator and then pasted it into Photoshop, and now you see where I am working on the panels behind the new lettering, because some of the new lettering balloons are bigger than the old lettering balloons, and some of the new lettering balloons are smaller. And when they're smaller, that means I have to go in and erase the old stuff, right? Like as you can see here, I'm doing that right now, and you can't just leave this blank, right? You have to fill it in. You got to redraw in what was not there before, but you also have to do it in a manner that looks like it was there all along, that Steve had intended it, and we had put the lettering balloons on top, and it works. But I've been working with him for quite a while at this point, so I kind of had a bit of a handle on how he liked effects, and that was kind of a rocky road to get to that point. It was pretty hard to try to learn how he likes certain things. He's very particular, and so you can see here I'm putting in the background, and now I gotta stick in these light beams, and they can't be like uniform or perfect looking. They've got to have a lot of randomness to them. That gives them more life, than if they were just kind of uniform light flashes like these guys. It's got to have big ones and little ones, and it's got to alternate, but it also has to kind of balance out. So it was very tricky stuff to do. And when we first started doing this stuff years ago, it took me a while to pick up on what Steve liked, and it got to the point where I could just do this stuff, and he would just kind of be like, "Okay, that's good," right? Like it wasn't even any "this is garbage" or "this is terrible" or "no," you know what I mean? Like it got to that point. So you can sort of see here now I'm moving around. There's whole panels where like everything was either rewritten or it was rewritten to the point where the whole that whole panel, right, like, as you're seeing here, had to be completely removed. Like it just had to go. So you can sort of see here I'm just kind of cleaning up what I'm doing here, and just sort of redoing the whole background. I think the original colored files I couldn't locate them. I'm not quite sure where they ended up. So basically was just using the finalized color versions, which would have been a flattened image, and then I'm just doing everything on top of that, which is more or less a process that Steve understands because it's painting, right? Like whenever you're painting something, you can't just go back and play around with layers. You just paint over, right? So basically what I'm doing here is I'm just painting over and integrating it as best as I can, so it doesn't look like that was there at all. So you can sort of see where I'm sort of getting rid of all these old balloons and stuff, and then I'm dropping in all the new text and the new rewrites that he had done. And like I said, there was at least two full passes of every 90 pages. And you'll be able to tell when you see the books in the trade paperback, or if you're getting the artist edition later on that comes out, you'll be able to see which is which, the original lettering that Steve did on the board, and the stuff that I made from the font that I created using his handwriting. I'm not the world's greatest fontographer or anything, but I made a quick little font that I did have to manually adjust the kerning so it looked better, but I made this little font, and it was originally just for doing little fixes, because I had done a couple of little fixes earlier by cutting and pasting individual letters to fix things, and that took a long time. And I'm glad I made this font, because I ended up working on this thing for like 4 months, redoing all these 90 pages or whatever it ended up being over and over again. It was very tedious and long hours, but I wanted to see the project finished. I wanted to see it get done, and that's all I'll say about that. But as you can see here, I'm just kind of fixing up some of the inks. So there's a little bit of inking here and there that has to be redone, and a lot of, you can sort of see where I've got a PDF open from his notes that he sent me for all the new text and things that he wants rewritten and that he has handwritten on the pages, and you can sort of see I'm just sort of dropping it in. I'm doing all the lettering in Illustrator, which is how I do my lettering anyway. So I have balloons and stuff that I have on a page that I can reference to and just copy it and paste them over, and then I drop in all the new text with the font and adjust the kerning and things like that to make it fit. Sometimes it's just way off. I think the letter I was really needed to be fixed up, but I just never got around to going back into the font program and fixing it. I just kind of would do it manually in the program. So I'm just adding some thought balloons, and I thought I was done at this point, but I had almost forgotten the bottom panel. I think right now I'm fixing up. Yeah, as you can see, I'm copying and pasting the new lettering from Illustrator into Photoshop. And now this is the panel that I forgot. I was like, oh yeah, I was gonna finish this, and then nope, I gotta do this big page here. So this panel here with Gnosis, this was before Gnosis was redrawn, by the way. So there was an original design for Gnosis. He looked a lot more like the Silver Surfer. I actually kind of like the redrawn version a little bit better. He's a little more unique. This one doesn't have, he's got kind of the newer version, he's got kind of a helmet and stuff. All of that stuff had to be dropped in later because I believe Marvel had something to say about how close Gnosis looked to Silver Surfer, and so Steve gave him some cosmetic changes, and I think he actually looks better the way that he is now than what he turned out, because it was just too close to, even for me, too close to just having the little symbol on his chest and being a different color was not. I could see the Marvel was like not happy with that, but anyway, so I had to redraw this entire panel because all of this text has to go, but I have to add in what Steve would have just done with a brush, but it's not as easy. It's easier said than done in digital. So you'll see me here. I'll start experimenting with some of my Photoshop brushes to try to get a similar look. You can sort of see to this energy field on the background, and it takes me a couple of goes. See, that doesn't look right at all, right? You can see me working on it. It's like, nah, that's not good. That looks, no. So I'll go through these Kyle T. Webster brushes. This would have been before, I think, they were integrated to Photoshop, maybe. I bought them before he was brought into Photoshop, and now you can get them as part of your Photoshop, but you can sort of see me going through. I don't really have them all memorized, so I'm just sort of going through. This one was pretty close. This one was pretty close, and so I just kind of went with that. And I kind of go, but it's not quite right. And when things aren't quite right, when you're working with Steve, he's going to let you know. He's going to let you hear about it. And I think what I'm doing there when it's turning black, I think I'm adjusting the threshold maybe to try to get it sharper. I can't quite see. I've got it sped up here so fast that I can't see what I'm doing. But you'll see here, because I couldn't quite get it to look quite right, what I ended up doing is I ended up zooming in and cutting out kind of brush stroke shapes and feathers with the lasso tool. Okay, right now I'm just sort of getting some of these kind of light ray things in there to match up what's going on. But I think it's right there. You can sort of see I started to, yeah, there. So I start cutting it in with the lasso tool just to make it look good, and I think that looks way better than the brush did by itself. So hopefully, when it's at least when it's reduced down to the tray paper's back size, you can't really tell whether or not it pops out on the artist edition size as being completely different the way that Steve did it. I don't know, but it was good enough. He never complained about it, so mission accomplished on that. Well, anyway, that was my extra work that I did on Coming with Romando, other than the coloring. I hope you learned something, I guess. Maybe. Kind of. I don't know. I just thought it might be a little bit interesting to show some of the extra work that went into producing the book, and it should be available soon, I think, from Dark Horse, and then the Kickstarter version should be in your mailbox soon if you ordered one of those. And there's an artist edition version coming out pretty soon as well.